Hi everyone. So I'm making this video because as a lot of people have noticed that as much as we were hoping to use Google Classroom to kind of be a landing platform or even a learning management system for our kids, that there are certain things, certain functions that don't work because the accounts are set up as through our sandy.net accounts, which are not Google accounts. So one of the downsides has been we cannot email students via Google Classroom. It just doesn't work. The kids' stu.sandy.net's accounts are considered Google accounts, but our sandy.net accounts are not. And since those are managing those accounts, the email function doesn't work. So this video is hopefully a workaround for emailing students via Outlook. So here's what I've got. You'll probably want to pause this. I'm going to go somewhat quick. So pause when you need to. But as you can see, I'm in PowerSchool as a teacher. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to do all my students, but I'm just going to do one set. I'm going to do one of my period 2 rosters. So what I want to do is I'm going to pull my student emails from PowerSchool and I'm going to bulk add them into Outlook. All right, so here's what you do. Go over to the printer icon, which takes you to reports. Now we're actually not going to select a report. We're going to select to print rosters. And then the one I want to select is student email roster. We've seen this before in other videos for different things. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to pull these emails. So unfortunately, just clicking this button, I'm not going to do that because all that will do is pull this email without the name. And for Outlook, I'd like the name to be attached to these generic numerical emails so I can actually know who I'm emailing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click down here and I'm just going to drag my cursor till I've got the whole thing selected. Sorry, I'm going to move myself here. It's messing me up. It's in the way. So I'm just going to drag across like so. And don't worry, I'm going to just grab everything here. We're going to clean this up. So I'm going to hit my keyboard and do control. I'm going to copy. And then I've also got Excel open. Doesn't really matter if it's Excel or anything else. I just needed a spreadsheet program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste all this in. And I think what I'll do is I'll put it way over here. I'm going to leave column A and B open because that's where my final information will go. So I'm going to paste. All right, so there's my short roster here. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to clean this up a bit. And for me, this is your choice. I would like to put it first name last. I'm better at remembering the kids' first names, not so much the last name. So I'd like it in Outlook that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of these other blank columns. Doesn't really matter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a formula. And all this formula is going to do is it's going to combine the first name and the last name together. So I'm just randomly pick column G. Doesn't really matter as long as we're not using A and B. And I'm going to put equals. When you put in equals, the Excel is now expecting some kind of formula, something to put things together in a pattern. So then what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to click on column M where I've got the first names. And you'll notice up here, it has this M:M. That means it's just pulling from that column. All right, now what I want to do is I want to enter in a space. So what it's going to do, I'm going to put an and symbol in, saying, and I'd like to add a space in. And so since the space is just text and not part of any kind of formula, we're going to do quote, space, quote. The quotes are to let it know to kind of get out of formula mode and just interpret that as just a space in between. And so another and symbol, column L. Okay, so that's what it's doing. The equal sign is saying you're going to follow a pattern. You're going to follow a formula. You're going to grab column M and you're going to insert a space in between, and you're then going to grab the last name from column L, and then you hit enter. And you'll notice it did it for the first one. What it did was it grabbed the first name and the last name, even though I've got it kind of grayed out here, and it combined them, first name, last name, as a single cell. And so what I can do now is I can copy that cell. So what I'm going to do, I'll click off and then click back on. I'm going to click the cell that I was working on. And then I'm just going to select the cells below it. And I only need to go down 4 because I've only got 4 cells open here in the first place. Paste. Okay, and so what it did was it took those separate first name, last names, and put them together in one cell rather than 2 separate cells. Okay, so now that you've got the first name and last names together, what you're then going to do is this. In column A, I'm going to give it a title because that's what Outlook is going to be expecting when I import this file. So this will be the name of the student and then the email. This really doesn't matter that much, but it's expecting a title in that first row. If you put a name here, then it won't get included. I learned that the hard way, that I didn't have column headers, and then I imported, and it thought the first entry was the column headers, and then it didn't include that email in with my import. So you want to have that first row, not first column, first row to be your headers, name, email. All right, now I'm going to grab the names, but I'm going to do this in kind of a special way here. If you notice, when I click on one up here, it's still a formula. Despite the fact that I can see the name here, that name is being generated by a formula. And I don't want the formula. I want the actual name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag and select all the names. I'm going to copy. Then I'm going to click right underneath the name. And when I paste, what I want to do for the paste is you see these different options here. I'm not going to do your typical paste. I am going to do paste values. So if you notice, I kind of stopped on this second one where it says paste values, because what it means is it's going to paste the actual names and not the formula anymore. Okay, so again, even though I've got it grayed out, if I click here, the name appears here and the name appears here, not a formula. Okay. All right, and then what I'm going to do is go back to my original data. I'm going to grab those district emails. If you want, you can add a third column and put in these emails, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to put the kids' personal emails. I'm just going to use the school ones. So I'm going to copy and then paste that under my email header. And so here's what I've got. Name, email for the headers. Underneath name, first name, last name, all in one cell. And then under email, all those district emails. All right, all the rest of this I don't need anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it and I'm going to delete it. Okay, and there's my file. Now, of course, what I would do to save yourself some time is if I was doing this for real, I would go back and I would grab my other period 2 roster and then I would continue to add it to this list so all my period 2 is in one place. But since it's just for an example, I'm just going to leave it like this. All right, now, here's another important piece. I'm going to now save it as, and let's just throw this on my desktop here. I'll call it period 2. Then I'm going to change the save type, not as an Excel. I want it as a CSV file. What CSV stands for is really simply comma separated values. So when Outlook pulls this in, the way it's going to pull it in is it's going to pull the name. The computer is automatically going to put a comma after it, and then it's going to put the email. And so that the Outlook is expecting that. It's expecting those commas between the values so it knows what to do with it. All right. So I'm just saving this to my desktop. Some features of blah, blah, blah. You might lose it if you save it as a CSV. Yes, I want to keep using that format. Now, I found out something else. When I tried to import with the file still open, I kept getting errors. So I learned I had to close out this Excel spreadsheet. And it does this weird thing. Even though I just saved it, it asked me if I want to save again. So sure, just to be careful, save again. Save. Already exists. You want to replace it. Okay, so now I'm in Outlook. It looks way different because I'm already kind of set things up and I've kind of minimized the screen because I didn't want to show it. I have to blur out all the personal information. So the smaller the window, the less I had to blur out. But this is where it gets a little dicey. I'm on the school PC. I've got a certain version of Outlook. You might be on your home computer or a Mac, and so your version of Outlook might be different. So I'm hoping this is close enough that you'll still be able to follow along. So first thing you'll notice that it doesn't look like your typical email window, and it's because over here on the bottom left, I'm already in my contacts. In Outlook, you can switch between your email, calendar, contacts, and so forth. So I want to be in the contacts. So that's the first thing you're going to do. Go into Outlook and go to your contacts. All right, so this is where you add your contacts, your groups, things like that. All right, and then I'm going to go to the upper left and go to File. And there's an option here that says Open Export. Those are the types of option I want because I'm going to import those emails. So I'm going to select that, Import Export. Now we start going through a bunch of choices. Choose an action to perform. We want to import from another program or file. So select that one. Next. As we talked about before, our file type is CSV, comma separated values. The computer is expecting those commas in between the entries. Next. Now, I've already done this once, so for me to do it again and not end up with a bunch of duplicates, I'm going to pick this option, replace duplicates with items imported. All right, and now I'm going to browse for the file I want. So I put it on the desktop as period 2. I'll select that. So now it knows where to pull everything from. Click next. Now it's asking where I want to put it in. I chose to just put it in with contacts right here. Next. Now this, again, because I've already done it, it's kind of not going to look the same. It should say import period 2 CSV into folder contacts. And when you click this box, another window should open up. But because I've already done this, it's not. And if it doesn't show up for you, click this button, Map Custom Fields. Okay, and what this is all about is telling the computer where do you want the values from your spreadsheet to end up in Outlook. So the left-hand side represents your spreadsheet. The right-hand side is where we're sticking them into Outlook. So notice our values here. These are the headers we put in earlier, name and email. So what I'm going to say is everything underneath that header name is going to go into Outlook as the name. So notice how I just clicked and dragged this over and stuck it here. Okay, so what that's telling the computer to do is to pull the name from the spreadsheet and it'll pop it into the name for Outlook. All right, and then if I scroll down on the right, somewhere there'll be emails, email, email 2, email 3. I'm going to grab my email header from the spreadsheet, drag it over, and map it to email here. Okay, so this is the place where if you had made 3 columns and you had also included the student entered emails, you could take whatever that header title is and drag it over here and put it in as email 2. Okay, so I'm choosing just to use the district emails, but if you wanted to, you could have put in those emails that kids have entered into PowerSchool. All right, so there's only 2 things I want, name and email. I click OK, and then finish. Okay, and that's it. All those kids have now been entered into Outlook. So if I were to go back to email, so bottom left here, I'm going to pick email. And then let's say I start a new email. And I hit 2. It's always on global address list, which I don't like. But if I switch it to contacts, I can now type in one of those kids' names. Let's see who was on that list. And now the names pop up. You can't see it because, again, I'm graying things out. But this is the student I just entered. It has their name and their district ID or district email with the number on it. And it shows up down here in my 2 box. Okay. And so now I can email individual students directly from Outlook. I've imported all those email addresses in there, and I can email the kids since I can't do it in Google Classroom. All right, so I hope that helps. Basically, what I did was I did 3 spreadsheets. I did one for each class, and then just one by one did these. Now, in this, you might want to ask, though, then what's with the other video in this tutorial? So now what I also want to do is I was trying to look for a way that I could just do an email group. Rather than individual emails like I was shooting for here, could I do an email group? And so I'm going to show that next. And so I forgot, by the way, so that I'm going to reuse those spreadsheets. So don't put those spreadsheets in the trash, save them, because I'm about to show you how you can use that to also do an email group.